A very good morning to you. My name is Darren, with my student ID being shown on the screen. I'm a student currently enrolling in Bachelor of Software Engineer, August intake 2020. And today, I'm here to proudly present to you my programming project, a Mastermind computer game. However, before we continue, we need to first understand how does the classic Mastermind game work, or else all of my days and nights spending on programming this program will be wasted because you don't understand a single thing I'm saying. So, the essential requirement for this game is actually to have two players to be able to play it. One of them being a code breaker and another one being a code maker. The idea of this game is to have the code breaker within the certain attempts guess the color made by the code maker. So the end goal of this game is actually to have the code breaker guess the code made by the code maker correctly. However, this game is not that tough because hint will be given to the code breaker in the midst of actually decrypting the secret code. So that's actually the basic version of the Mastermind game. However, as stated before, the requirement of this game is to actually have two players to be able to play it. This is sometimes tough, especially for people who don't have much friends like me. Hence, I have programmed a computer Mastermind game, a computer version of the classic Mastermind game. The objective of this new Mastermind computer game is to actually provide a new way for the player to play Mastermind without changing much of its core mechanics. So you will still be needing to guess the code between a certain guesses, etc., etc. And the second most important objective is to actually let player play without the requirement of companionship of the others. So even if you are alone, you will still be able to play it. Now, without further ado, let's have a quick demonstration on how does the computer version Mastermind game work. When we first started to program, this will be the first thing you will be able to see. So this is a graphical user interface, and this is a conversation that will be prompted to you from the robot. So what makes this Mastermind so special is that this game actually has another player that's playing with you. Not a player, but the robot that will be speaking to you, acting like another human, and his name is Sabot. So we can first start the game by inputting start. And after that, we can choose the difficulty that we want to play. So that's easy, normal, and impossible. So for this case, we will go with easy. Due to the time issue and for the sake of demonstration, certain alterations of this program are actually made. So for example, the speaking speed of this robot is actually greatly increases, and the answer of the code is actually directly printed out. Once you put in the difficulty, the game will alter accordingly to the difficulty we chosen. So for this case, we have chose easy. Hence, there will be unlimited guesses and there's lesser color to choose from. We play the game by how you will play the classic Mastermind game. You need to input 4 color. So for our case, you also need to input the 4 color. So let's say you want to put in red, and the bot will react accordingly to the color code that you just inputted. So this is basically the secret code for this current game session. There's actually 2 ways that we can complete the game. One is by actually winning the game, which is, let's say, green, blue, red. The bot will tell you that you actually completed the game with like only 2 guesses and how long it takes for you to play, and it will prompt you to play again. So I will show you the second way that you will be actually able to finish the game. So if you want to play again, then we go with easy again. I've implemented a feature that's quite special for this game, which is actually called a command giving up. So if you feel that this game is actually quite hard and you want to quit the game, or maybe let's say you're in an urgent rush to something else and you want to quit the game, you can actually quit the game by actually giving up. So once you say you want to give up, then you will ask you if you want to play again, or you can actually say no, and this will exit the program. So for this case, I'll go with yes again, I will play again. Now, for the special thing for this program, every error or decision made by the player will actually lead up for the robot to speak differently accordingly to you. So if you say easy, normal, impossible, the game will lead to the conversation there. However, if you put in a difficulty that was not stated here, so for example, I put in say no, then the bot will react differently, as you can see. So let's say if I go with easy and we want to play again, But this time, I actually inputted the wrong color format, which is only 3 colors. So as you can see, the bot will react differently and ask you if we need reminding of the color code. If you actually make another human error at this area, you already made human error here, and then it asks you again, but you made another human error here. So for example, you put in a random value. Then the bot will react differently, and then he will kick you out of the game. So to sum it up, every error or decision that are possible to happen will lead to the bot reacting differently. So it is best for the player to explore themselves and see the different conversation being output. And that's basically the demonstration of this mastermind program. Now moving back to the question that should be answered, how do you design an interactive user menu to help users play? So the first thing was to provide a comprehensive help list and tutorial to assist the player. There will be a list of commands that is available printed out to guide the player. And let's say if they need help, they can input tutorial and get this comprehensive guideline from the bot to assist the player. Secondly was the theme that I actually chose to go with for this program, which is sarcastic and humor-alike interaction. This is to ensure that the player have the better experiences by playing themselves and getting some laugh out of the sarcastic conversation spoken out from the robot. So how do you apply list? For list, it was generally used to include a list of colors that should be in the secret code when the player chooses a difficulty. Different color will have a different list of color to be considered. So as shown, let's say this difficulty that I chose to go with was normal. Thus, the system code will be green, red, black, green, choosing from the list of the difficulty normal. Furthermore, it was also used to compile the player's code into a list as shown. The main issue that was actually able to tackle was the fact that list is actually easier to validate between the players and system code. As shown, we can compare the color from the player list index 0 to the system list and generate the hint that was required to output. How do you generate randomized value? The first was using Python library native random module by importing random into the program. It was actually able to solve the issue of eliminating the need of manually keying in all the secret code possibility. So there's actually 4 colors to be chosen for. It actually takes out the troublesome to actually key in all of the possibility that is possible to happen. And furthermore, it was also to ensure that different system code is generated every time for the user so that the code won't be the same. How do you apply decision making? During the gameplay, decision making should be considered and applied as every possible decision made by the player should be considered. In addition, we need it because it was required to produce the correct result if certain conditions or decisions are made by the player. So for example, if the player chooses to go with the decision exit, the program will then produce the result which is to exit the game. Furthermore, it solves the occurrences of bugs to be greatly reduced when all decision making are considered. For example, even though the decision is wrong, certain commands should be output in order to tackle the command as well, so that the game will actually run smoothly. How do you apply iterative process? Using while loop or for loop, iterative process are required when certain decisions or processes are required to be repetitive. For example, the player guessing the code until it was finally correct. It was needed so that the program will run again and again until the player decided to stop. For example, if let's say the player finished the current session of the game, they can input yes to try again, and the iterative process of the entire program will loop back to the beginning of the code without needing the player to close and restart the program themselves. Other than that, one major issue that it was capable of solving was reducing human error, as it will continue looping until the player finally made a decision that are appropriate and understandable by the computer. How do you apply user-defined function? User-defined functions are applied when certain blocks of code or processes are required to be reused in different areas of the code. For example, since I have different difficulty for this program, a function to validate the wrong code is created and will be reused over and over again for each of the different difficulty. One huge advantage it has was the fact that user-defined functions are more flexible to modify, as it reduces the needs of manually changing a similar code to something else. Furthermore, it reduces the line of code to be used, hence reducing human error made by the programmer as well. For example, The function that I created is that the speaking speed of the robot are required to be delayed. Since the speaking speed of the robot are required to be used in almost all areas of coding, hence a function to make it constantly speak after 2 seconds are implemented, so that the speaking speed for the robot are constant for the entire game and it's actually easier to modify if the speed were to be changed. And now we have come to the conclusion. There's mainly two things that I want to talk about. The first is that I enjoy the entire process as customizing and creating game is one of my favorite activities. Hence, I highly emphasize on trying out the game yourself and see the different reaction made by the robot. And that is a secret feature hidden in the impossible difficulty as well. So go and try it out yourself. Other than that, the project has made me to be able to think more logically and to be involved with coding more often. Thus, it motivates me to use coding to solve more problems in my life future. However, not all things are perfect, as there's also improvement that I hope to be able to achieve in the future for this Mastermind computer game. The first thing was a better GUI, as right now, the graphical user interface is only made out of text and characters. And I hope that in the future, with advanced learning of coding, I can make a better GUI that actually gives a better image of the game and actually make the robot more human-alike. Secondly, I hope to implement more interaction and customization of the game in the future. To illustrate, maybe the robot will subtitle the user or even sing a song to interrupt the code breaker. And we have finally come to the end of my torturous presentation. Thank you for listening and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.